This morning we have a winter wonderland again. Mostly it's me wondering why it always either snows just before we leave or while we have to drive home. Because now I gotta dig out the car and gotta shovel all this here again before we can even leave. But it is beautiful. I'm going to get to our 2013 Tesla Model S with 200,000 miles and its history here shortly. We'll be finding out if this is still the first battery, first drive unit, what has been done to it and what not. But first, let's talk briefly about the Snowstorm, because I'm gonna show you the footage of the Snowstorm while I'm talking about our Tesla Model S. I can't say I got caught unexpected in the storm, since I actually had a warning from my FEMA app. There was a winter weather advisory. And so, yeah, I should have expected something, but I didn't expect it to be as bad, since usually it is a winter storm warning if it is that bad. I did have a good 300-mile drive going home, and about half of that was really bad, and we'll see this in the footage here. So I've been driving from Island Park to Butte, but there's two ways to get there. One is through Bozeman, which is kind of the nicer, usually cleaner route. Usually the storm is either through already or it's not going to be there. But the other way, the shorter way, is through Ennis, and that cuts out some of the miles, so it's a little shorter, but that is usually at least windier for sure. So, but I chose the shorter route because I wanted to get home quickly, and yeah, so I got caught in that storm, kind of unexpected, and it was worse than expected. And there was actually very little traffic on the road. And so I'll let this footage play while I talk about what's going on with our Tesla Model S and what repairs have been done to it so far. As I'm editing this, I notice the storm doesn't look nearly as bad on camera as it really was. With the GoPro and the wide angle, it looks like there's not even snowfall or anything. It looks like you can see just fine. So, yeah, to you this looks like it is nothing, but in reality, I could hardly see anything at this point. And yeah, so I got a little footage that I took with the iPhone, since I'm testing the iPhone out a little bit and see how good that camera really is. And so I'm going to show you that so you can see a little bit better how it really looked like for me driving the car. Now you could see for yourself that the GoPro just makes this look like it's beautiful weather out there. So the recording was actually this stretch here that I'm driving here that you see now with the GoPro. So it looks more real on the iPhone camera than it does here on the GoPro. So, but anyway, I'll leave this footage run. I got hours and hours of it, so we could talk all day. But let's get to what's going on with our Model S. So the most asked question was pretty much, is this still the first battery pack? Well, we'll get to this. Let's go back a little bit here real quick. So we didn't have this Model S from new. There was no way we could have bought a Model S back in 2013. We definitely did not have that much money. So we bought it used, and we actually bought this used in June of 2021 for $25,500. That was the cheapest Model S I could find in the United States. From a dealer. I didn't want to buy from private party because you never really know what you're getting into. Coming from a dealer, I knew it would at least be drivable and we could drive it home. So I got videos on that from buying it, why and what, and so on. So go back in our history. I put a few links down below in the description too, so you can go watch those videos. But yeah, that's what we did. It had 192,000 miles on it, I believe, when we bought it. And currently, as I'm editing this video, we're up to 209,000 here as of the end of March of 2023. So we put quite a few miles on it. There is a video that we have of what was wrong with the car when we picked it up, so you can go back and see what the heck was wrong with it. But obviously, we've been driving it. If you haven't seen the videos, like I said, we got tons of videos. Wintertime driving from last winter. We got summertime. We got a long road trip to the Oregon coast and back. So that was over 1,000 miles, I believe. So we put quite some miles on this thing. But yeah, just like you are interested in what's new on this car and what's old on this car, so were we when we got it. And I was able to contact the former owner. The former owner told me that they really didn't have any issues with it, that it always worked well for them. They never really had to do much to it at all. I mean, obviously, up to 190,000 miles, you have a few minor things here and there. One of the things was the HID headlight bulbs were replaced, which, yes, at almost 10 years old and 190,000 miles, that's to be expected, I guess. So, and also, I believe she pointed out the door handle had to be replaced, and only one. That was kind of amazing. And then I was lucky. A Tesla technician was actually really nice, looked the car's history up and looked at it and said, yeah, there is really not much going on with this car. He could confirm the HID bulbs and the door handle. But other than that, there was just minor stuff. But so then you might wonder, why would they sell the car? Well, why wouldn't you at 190-some thousand miles, right? Almost 10 years old. Maybe it's time for a new car before major repairs could be happening. Also, if you go back and watch our video, then you would know now that it had a few issues. So go back, watch that video so you know what other minor issues it had. But basically, it was driving just fine. And yes, it had its first battery when we bought this thing. And it had its first drive unit when we bought this thing. So yes, that battery when we picked it up had 192,000 miles on it. So did the drive unit. And I was not worried about it at all. These can go for much longer. Obviously, some will fail, just like some engines do or some transmissions do. But anyway, so we kept driving, and yeah, as you keep driving an old car with so many miles, more issues will come up. There's no doubt about it. And so what I noticed, like if I pushed it like on the freeway on-ramp and really floored it, and we got basically maximum power out of it, there was a weird noise coming from under the back seat. It was kind of like a buzzing sound, kind of weird, and didn't know really what it was. But usually this didn't happen. This was really only when I floored it and pushed it uphill when it really used pretty much full power. And so I wasn't worried about it at all. I suspected it to be the contactors, but there was no real sign that there is anything wrong. There was no fault code at the time. Until about, I don't know, 1,000 or 2,000 miles later. Eventually, we got a power restriction, and it was around 280 kilowatts or so. So nothing to be really concerned of because, well, when do you need that much freaking power? You gotta be like a race car driver. So wasn't too worried about that, but it didn't go away. It never went away, never went away. And so eventually the fault message was there about the power restriction. So, and then it's like, something must be wrong. and looked into that a little bit closer and checked out the fault codes. It was a BMS fault code. I don't remember the number, but well, it led me to believe it's definitely the contactors, and I double checked real quick with a friend of mine that has more experience there, and he confirmed, yes, that's definitely the contactors that are about to go out. But what did I do? Well, I just kept driving. You just keep driving until it breaks, then you for sure know what it is. So obviously that was a little risk because those contactors could have gone out at any time. And when they go out completely, then you're stuck. And actually, these contactors are the reason that so many Tesla battery packs were replaced on these cars. So probably everyone has heard of these, I don't know, hundreds of battery packs replacements early on. Maybe it wasn't hundreds, I don't know, but you hear it all the time and people are so afraid probably because of that reason. But these early battery packs actually had all contactor failures. And the contactors are inside the battery pack, but they're not part of the battery. They just happen to be inside the battery pack. And you have to drop the pack out. You would have to open up the pack to replace them. And Tesla did not allow their service centers to do so. So the service centers only could replace the entire battery pack and not repair what was actually wrong inside the pack, just the contactors. So then a few years down the road, so for, I don't know, 3 years now or so, maybe 4 years, I don't know exactly, Tesla is now, the service centers are now opening up these battery packs and are replacing contactors. And I think it's somewhere around $1,400 to $1,700 to do so. And yeah, rather than having to buy a whole new battery pack. But back when those were replaced, in general, they were all under warranty anyway, so nobody really cared. Nowadays, it would be a little bit different because pretty much all of those older Teslas are out of warranty. So, and for us, yeah, I just kept on driving. And other than having a fault code and the warning on the dash, there was really not much to worry about. I mean, yeah, I could have went out at any time, but what the heck? I like to take some risks, right? So, but then something else happened one day, and I don't know, we've been driving several thousand miles with that contactor fault. And then one day we got a different noise also coming from the rear of the car. And that different noise, it was kind of weird. I knew the noise somehow, but I couldn't place it, what it is. I couldn't get it together what it was. It sounded really close to a bearing noise, like a wheel bearing or a motor bearing going out. So a wheel bearing going out is relatively easy to identify because you're just going down the road and you can actually shift the car into neutral, step on the brakes, and as you're stepping on the brakes, that will pick up the slack in the wheel bearing and it will make the noise change or go away. So that's really easy to identify, and yeah, the noise didn't go away or it didn't change, it stayed exactly the same. And I tried to shift it in neutral, see if the noise was there. Was it there in drive? I was really trying to figure out what is going on, but I couldn't get it together, and it was slightly different every time. And so we kept on driving, just drive until it breaks, right? It was not the contactor, so if anybody thinks it's the contactors, that was definitely not it. And the noise got a little bit louder, especially when backing it up. So here at home, when I put it in reverse and backed up here, we gotta go about 30 feet or so in reverse. And it was really loud in reverse. And that was kind of weird. And then I shifted it in drive and drove forward, and it was not nearly as loud. So that was really weird. And then when I had a Tesla technician here, I had him listen to this real quick. And he couldn't put his finger on it really either at that point. We were kind of like, yeah, it kind of sounds like a bearing, but maybe not. So, really unsure. But again, kept driving. And so I probably drove another 1,000 miles or close to it with this car until one day, driving home about 3 miles from home, I came around the turn where so before going into the turn, I lifted my foot off the accelerator a little bit. It was going up the road here, so there's only 35 miles speed an hour, so you don't have to slow down very much, but slowed down a little bit. And as I come out of the turn, I wanted to accelerate. And as I pressed the pedal, it didn't go. And I pressed the pedal more and more and more and more, and it just didn't go. And so I eventually looked at the dash and what the heck's going on? And there was a fault message there, and I had the pedal floored, and we were not going anywhere. We were still rolling. It was actually amazing how this car just rolls. It was flat out, and the car just kept on rolling with losing very little speed. And so I just had time to pull over. Not that there's much to pull over on that road. It's a very narrow road anyway, but there's not much traffic, so no big deal. I pulled over, came to a stop, and then at that point, I think that's when I noticed that the gears, where it shows your park, reverse, neutral, and drive, that these turned like an orange reddish color. They were no longer white. And then there was a fault message popping up that said, and that was a funny message, it said, rear wheel motor disabled, okay to drive. That was kind of funny, I thought. I mean, that's great. The car doesn't even know that it is only a rear wheel drive and doesn't have a front motor. I thought that was really funny. So because if you have a dual motor car, you can keep driving if one motor is disabled. So it will let you drive. But, well, I only have one motor, so I was stuck. And that was kind of a bad place to be stuck. There's not much traffic. Also, there's no cell phone reception. Luckily, I had my daughter with me that just came from track, so she's a runner. And I told her, well, you grab your cell phone and you start running towards home and just keep your phone in the hand to see if you get a bar of reception somewhere. And then you call your mom. And she got really lucky. She had to run about 100 feet, and there she had enough reception to call the mom. And about 10 or 15 minutes later, my wife showed up with the truck. I took one of my ratchet straps, hooked it around the A-arm on the front suspension, hooked it to the truck, and then I drove the truck, and my wife was in the Model S. She just put it in neutral. That's all we needed to do, and we pulled it up here home the last 3 miles or so without any issues. So, and yeah, by the way, I did try a scroll wheel reset, but I didn't expect it to do anything, and sure enough, it did not do anything. So yeah, and then we had it at home here, not knowing what was really going on. So at that point, it was kind of sitting here because I didn't have much time to do anything. We were so busy with other stuff, and we still had one car, we still had the truck, and so we had to deal with that at that time. And so it was sitting here. We definitely knew it will need contactors anyway, and there was something else going on. Then at some point I got in and checked out the fault code, and unfortunately that fault code was not listed in the fault code list that Tesla provides. If you subscribe to the service manual, it's actually free, and we got a video on that on how to do it. So you can actually subscribe to the service manuals for Tesla, and it's free, and you can look at all that stuff, and they have a list of fault codes, but that fault code wasn't on there. So also, by the way, the service manual does not contain any diagnostics. It just contains on how to remove and replace parts. So no diagnostics in there. You would have to subscribe at least to the Tesla Toolbox, which costs quite a bit of money to get some diagnostics, but you still won't get it all. pretty much only Tesla has it all, so a Tesla technician could look at that. Luckily, I have a good buddy that's had access to that, and he looked it up, and he told me that, well, this particular fault code is an out of phase motor. And at that point, it clicked in my head, and it's like, yep, I know that now, because I heard electric motors that lost a phase before, and that's exactly what it sounded like. And I couldn't put my finger on it any earlier, but once he said it, it was pretty clear what it is. And he was nice enough to tell me how to test for that fault, which is relatively simple. You gotta get under the car, disconnect the high voltage cables on the drive inverter, and then you measure the resistance at the positive and negative connections there going to the drive inverter, and you're supposed to get a certain resistance. And then depending, obviously, if it's out of spec, it's the drive inverter is bad. But that was the funny thing is, it says even if it is within specification, the drive inverter could be bad. So that was kind of interesting. But I was lucky. I measured it. Well, lucky. I don't know if you call that lucky. I measured it. It was out of spec, so it was broken. I don't know if you want to call that lucky. But at least I had confirmation that it is broken because it was out of the specifications. So now we had a broken drive inverter and we needed contactors. And yeah, so now we're looking at some more serious money to actually repair this between the contactors and then the drive inverter. You can't really replace the drive inverter by itself. You got to replace the entire drive unit. I think Tesla charges like $6,500 just for the drive unit. Plus labor, I believe. I'm not 100% positive on that. If you know, leave a comment down below, please. So, but yeah, that was serious money. So it was like, what the heck are we doing now? So we stuck to our Model 3 and the truck for that time being, and let the car sit again. It would charge, by the way, so when that noise came up and everything, and after it died, it would always still charge, because a friend of mine said, oh, maybe your contactors went out finally, and I said no, because I can charge it. So the car would power up, power down, it would charge, so it would charge on AC and it would charge on DC. So definitely the contactors were not the cause for this, because it would do all that. So, and we just kept the charge. She was sitting out here plugged in for quite some time. Well, and we were not sure. We were supposed to get a Rivian, and probably if Rivian would have delivered as they said, because we had a delivery window, then we probably would not have repaired the Model S, since it was initially intended for a project and not to drive. So, but Rivian could not deliver and we needed another car. We didn't want to go back to an ICE vehicle. That was really out of the question. A hybrid was really out of the question too. So it would have had to be another electric car, but price has been going up. And so it was not an option to purchase another EV. So basically it came down to either live with the situation we have, but driving the truck costs a lot in fuel, or invest some money into this Model S. And so I went back to the drawing board and started looking at salvage cars again, because I still haven't done my project yet. So, but I looked at salvage cars, and if you've been following the channel, then you know we purchased a salvage Tesla Model S. And if you don't know that and haven't seen the videos, go back. We got a couple videos on that. And so, well, we started taking apart that salvage Model S. Many people thought we would fix it up, but actually I went the other direction, started taking it apart, and that's when the whole plan came together. So that salvage vehicle had 128,000 miles on it, and it was drivable. So the damage was not really bad. It was drivable. It didn't have any fault codes relating to the battery, to the contactors, or to the drive unit. It only had a couple fault codes in regards to the airbags that deployed. So nothing there indicating that anything was bad. And since it was in an accident, obviously somebody was driving it at the time, so it was definitely drivable when it got into the accident. So there was nothing really to be worried about in regards to battery and drive unit. And I guess by now you can tell where I'm going. So first thing I did is I pulled the drive unit out of the salvage one and stuck it into our 2013 and made this all work, and it was drivable again at that point. Still, the contactors were a problem in the 200,000 mile battery pack, obviously. Now we had a 128,000 mile drive unit on there, and since I replaced the drive unit, the alignment was off on the rear, and so it was actually almost crab walking a little bit, especially when you were accelerating. It pushed over to one side, so the thrust angle was off of that rear unit there, of the frame, everything, and it needed to be aligned. And so I parked it again and decided we need to fix the battery contactors at this point too. But it wouldn't make sense to pull the 200,000 mile pack out, open it up, and you pull the 128,000 mile battery pack, open it up, and then swap the contactors. That didn't make any sense to me. Obviously, if I have a 200,000 mile battery pack with back contactors, if I pull that out, set it aside, and just take the 128,000 mile battery pack and stuff it in the 200,000 mile car, that is much easier, quicker, and then I have like a new battery pack. Almost new. So at least that's what I thought I would have. A brand spanking new battery pack. Well, it definitely had less miles. Was it better or was it worse is now the question. So, well, if you watch the battery degradation video, you've seen that it came out with quite some high degradation. And, well, there were some questions about it because there may be a buffer or something that would be in there that makes it look worse than it really is. So even if I take that 4 kilowatt hour buffer out, the degradation still would have been like 17%, which is kind of bad. And but anyway, at this point, since 201,000 miles, we had a new drive unit and a new battery. New meaning 128,000 miles coming out of the salvage car we bought. So, and I've been driving it and put several thousand miles on before I did this degradation test. And this gave me a feel for this battery pack. And we had the alignment done on the rear, obviously, so that it wouldn't crab walk. And when you step on the accelerator, it wouldn't push sideways. So that was no big deal. We just took it to the local tire shop here and they did an alignment. I think cost me like $90 or $130 or something. So not bad. So that was good. But anyway, so I've been driving it and I didn't really know where this battery pack was at. I didn't really know how long it was sitting in the salvage yard. When it got here, it had 6% of charge in it. That's obviously not good if it sits below 20% for a long time, but it probably has been below 20% for a long time. So I didn't really know how good or bad it is. What I noticed with this pack is it didn't act like the 200,000 mile pack. No, it did not act better. It acted a little worse. So like driving Uber and Lyft in town, I just frequently went to the charger and put 10% in it, but these 10% disappeared really quick again. You know, that's just an example compared to the previous battery. Then also I thought, okay, the pack probably needs balanced. So how do you balance a pack? It's just like I did in the degradation test. You got to go up to 100% and let it finish all the way until it completely stops charging. So, and I did that multiple times, and it always took very long to get to the final endpoint. So with the previous 200,000 mile pack, this took about 45 minutes to an hour to balance the battery, which is about normal for most of these cars. But this pack took at least an hour and a half, most of the time closer to 2 hours to finally stop charging completely. So that was kind of an indication there are cells way out of balance in there. And it didn't improve. It should have improved as I balanced it multiple times. And I didn't balance it every day or something, you know. I mean, on the drive there, I balanced it obviously in the morning. And then on the drive to the second supercharger, so in between, I charged it and let it balance. But, you know, I balanced it maybe once a week or so. But I never let it sit at 100%. I just let it go all the way and then started driving it, used it normal. And it should have improved. The time to balance the pack should have gotten shorter unless there are bad cells in it. And so this pack, I guarantee you, has bad cells. Probably not just one. I don't know. I mean, I heard that sometimes one cell would take out the whole pack and or something, but I don't know. All these packs nowadays that actually fail because of a cell failure or something, they all seem to act a little bit different. So, but yeah, this battery pack, some people said this couldn't have that much degradation. It has something going on. It definitely has one cell that is pretty bad, probably has a couple, 3, 4 cells, I don't know, that are not so great. I have no clue how it looks inside the pack since I didn't open it. I just swapped it out, and so now I gotta live with it. Luckily, it still gets me from A to B. It seems to have more loss while I'm driving it than the other pack. So it's like when before I would get there between 5 and 10%. Now I get there between 0 and 5%. So there's definitely something going on with that pack at this point. But now you know, we got a new 128,000 mile drive unit in there. And we do have a new battery, 128,000 mile battery in there. Actually, we're at 209,000 miles right now. So we already put 8,000 miles on that drive unit and that battery pack. So they're definitely getting older. So we're at 137,000 miles on each one of those at this point. And so for now, we'll keep on driving it, because the other battery pack, the other battery pack actually became part of my project now, or is about to become part of my project, and we'll have another video on this, and that will be really cool, I think. At least for me it is. It might not be for you. But yeah, so yeah, that's basically it. There, you've seen the other videos of what I have repaired while I had the car. I usually had a video made. We had a window regulator repaired that I repaired. We had a door handle that I repaired. I added a tow hitch. I added wiring for the tow hitch, so we have lights on the trailer. That's, I think, about all I did. Oh, I almost forgot. There was one more thing I did. So while the car was sitting, it was sitting here, probably that was several weeks, couple months. At some point, the heater failed. So when I got in on a cold morning, it would just blow cold. So the heater failed, and I did diagnostics on that, and it was a blown fuse in the DC to DC converter. And since I had the salvage car sitting there, guess what? I swapped the DC-DC converter out and had heat again. And a lot of people in regards to that, Tesla will tell you you will need a new heater core, a new PTC heater, and a new DC-DC converter. and that's what most people do. And well, I just had a blown fuse, and when I did diagnostics on the heater, it measured correct, so the heater wasn't bad. And sometimes, I mean, throughout my life, I replaced many fuses in many cars, and that's all I did. And stuff started working again and worked ever since, right? So here, to replace the fuse, you gotta open it up and blah blah blah. It's quite some work. These fuses are pretty deep buried in there in the DC-DC converter. So I just swapped the whole thing out. And yeah, I have my heat back, and it's been going all winter long, so no issue. There was no need to replace the PTC heater along with it, because that adds a lot of labor, and it's probably not cheap either. I don't know. I think on eBay they're a few $100s each or something. So, well, now you know. This is the story of our 200,000 mile Tesla Model S, and for now we'll keep it as it is and keep driving it with this battery pack that is just so. If we're lucky, it holds up until maybe we finally, eventually, someday get a Rivian. If we're not so lucky, this battery pack may fail on us, but I hope it won't. If it will, the plan for me is, if I got time, I want to pull it, open it up, see if I can locate what's going on, assuming that there are bad cells, hopefully not too many, and see if I can just basically snip them out of the circuit and keep going with a couple battery cells less. We'll see. It is possible to do that, by the way. So that is the idea. In the worst case, I still would have battery modules from the 200,000 mile pack that I could set in there if actually an entire module is the problem and not just a few or a or two individual cells in the pack. All right, well, we'll end this here. You've probably seen enough of the Snowstorm. At least you didn't have to look at my face the whole time. So, anyway, give this video a thumbs up, please. Subscribe to our channel if you haven't done so yet. Click the notification bell so you get notified when our new videos come out. Also, go back and check out our older videos. I mean, these are still valid. They have all good information in it. We have lots of wintertime driving videos. That's a huge concern for many. We drive the Chevy Bolt EUV, the Tesla Model 3, and this Tesla Model S here in the winter. And so there's lots of information there. We also got obviously summertime driving videos with the same cars. We have some how-to repair videos with those cars, so you can get to see some stuff there. So yeah, go back and look at all the other videos. There's probably more that is interesting to you, and maybe you can pick up a tip or trick here and there. As I'm going down the road and things are happening, I point out things on how to do this, how to do that. So there's probably lots to learn there, especially if you're newer to EVs. So again, please give us a thumbs up, hit subscribe, hit the notification bell, and hopefully we'll see you next time. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.